xoxoHomegrown.
I'm just getting this thing started off the right way right here.
As you should.
Meg has, I've been told Meg has a hard stop at 7 p.m. But that leaves us about 40 minutes to pick her brain, as well as Paul. For those who aren't familiar, Meg is the co-founder of Golden Road, where we are here this evening. Thank you for hosting us.
Absolutely, and Paul is a better brain to pick on this topic, so glad he's here with us.
And Paul Burgis, everyone, is the COO and CFO of Golden Road. Are you going to keep both titles now going forward?
We'll see. I'll let you know.
That's a lot to put on a business card.
Nothing changes, Chris.
Yeah, nothing changes when you get bought. Anyways, let's jump right in. So, what are we, about 2 months ago? Less than 2 months.
I think it was a month. Just
September,
about a month.
right?
Yeah, into September, very into September.
Yeah, well, GABF, right before GABF.
Yeah.
You guys announced that you were selling to Anheuser-Busch. Certainly, I think caught many people by surprise here locally. Maybe not so much in the beer space. A lot of people, pay attention to all the activity. I think at that point, there had been a number of transactions that month, so it was, kind of like, oh wow, another one. But talk to us a little bit about the decision to sell to Anheuser-Busch after only 4 years.
Sure. So it's interesting that Brian was on stage before us. We need to thank him greatly. He's me and Paul's favorite guy in banking and loaned us money actually a little over a year ago.
$8.6 million. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Appreciate it.
Cheers. I don't know if that's confidential or not, but I think those
Not
confidentiality
anymore.
agreements go away when you're under a new confidentiality agreement. But Paul and I wrote a 5-year plan for Bank of America just over a year ago, and nowhere in that plan was there an exit. That plan actually looked great. Our two financial partners behind us said, we want to keep investing and we want you to take on this debt from B of A and build a great brewery in Anaheim and continue capacity expansions in LA, as well as open a couple more retail shops. So that was our plan, and honestly, it happened really fast, but we started talking to AB on a whim with a lot of the activity in the space, as well as our new expansions. We thought, let's just talk to them about some sort of partnership and how that looked. And that was pretty much like the end of summer. So that can tell you kind of how quickly this happened. And the story goes, I was on a plane and had a Goose IPA and thought, wow, they're putting IPAs out there. They're starting to get craft beer. Paul and I spoke. Paul came from AB and was the plant controller at AB Van Nuys. And between the two of us, we said, let's take a meeting. We talked to our other two partners, and they said, focus on the business. Do not spend time on this. We are not in a position to sell. And then, then the offer came in, and I think Paul can kind of comment on when that offer comes in, and you look at it, and you look at enterprise value and the direction you're headed on when to say yes and when to say what's next.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that comment is, why does anybody look at an exit? And the truth is, I think it really comes down to, do you need the cash, right? Do the investors need personally the cash back for, say personal life, or maybe they have a better investment they want to put it to, or the second piece is, you truly think it's your best value proposition. And I think we were in the latter section of that it was truly our best value proposition for our investors. And a lot of that had to do with the comments that Brian made about the competitive market and how it's getting increasingly more difficult. And so when we thought about this, if we had a strong partner, that would certainly help. As competition increases, partnering with other strong breweries or businesses, and we were kind of wide opening to look at what that looked like. Ultimately, kind of made sense. Made sense for us. And then when it came back down to basically a number, and the number was good for our investors, And so the price was right, essentially, right?
So in terms of timing, I mean, it sort of seems like peak value for you guys at a time of, some uncertainty, I guess I'd say, or, that's how I would describe sort of the marketplace right now. Very uncertain. Certainly craft is growing, but a lot of new competition out there, a lot of different things happening both on a global level as well as a local level. So does that sort of characterize it? I mean, peak value at an uncertain time?
Certainly valuations are probably never going to be this high anytime soon in the next 20 years, if I was speculating. So timing was part of it, because when you're talking about numbers, the market has to be right. Money's pretty cheap. I asked Brian Mulvaney over there. Money's fairly cheap right now, so the evaluations are really elevated. And we weren't considering it. We weren't even positioned for an exit if that was going to make sense at some point. It was just kind of fortuitous timing. Good money markets and a lot of growth in the segment.
Right. Well, let's take a step back for a minute. So let's walk all the way back to the time that you guys, the time that Meg launched Golden Road, and then you came on shortly thereafter, Paul. In the last sort of 4 years leading up to the announcement, what were some of the biggest challenges that you guys faced as entrepreneurs, and how much of that did you take into consideration as you were having these discussions with Anheuser-Busch?
Sure. Well, Paul and I will say different things, I'm sure. My challenges were more, prior to Paul coming on. I mean, my biggest challenge was raising money, right? So I spent a couple years prior to Golden Road out finding the right capital partner, and I will say with the two investors that Paul and I are seeing an exit on now, and we'll get to and talk about how Paul and I are staying in, and we're not, I've been quoted as not selling out, and it's true. Majority of our interests are staying in, and we're happy to talk about that as well. But really the hardest part was convincing somebody with a piece of paper and some distributor and retailer relationships as a 24-year-old to put nearly $20 million into infrastructure of a brewery, right? Which is what's happened here over the last few years. So that was the biggest challenge on pre-day one. Post day one was the right people on the right seat on the bus. So I felt like, hey, I'm young and inexperienced, so I need to find people that have all this experience in these certain roles. And what I've found is that it's more about the people versus the role, and find the right people and not necessarily what their resume says. And you'll find places for them to help grow the enterprise. Much more so than, hey, let's find a director of this or a title by that. And I think it's like capturing that entrepreneurial spirit in people that we've found over the last probably 12 months that's really like catered to the next kind of level of our growth that we'll see in the next 12 months.
So a big part of your job over the last probably longer than 12 months, I would assume, is making sure that the sort of culture piece fit properly, and that was kind of dialed in. Even if you weren't going to sell, the culture needed to be there. Is that fairly accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that people, Paul will talk about it's hard to find people who accept change the way that we accept change, and we've now found a great deal of it, and the 100% growth, and that all of that is like constant change and constant evolution. And you can't hand somebody a job description and say 3 months down the line that job description is going to be the same. It changes all the time, and finding that person who doesn't become frustrated with it but embraces it and thrives from it is what we're looking for now, and what we've found in much of our staff now.
Right. And Paul, you joined in 2012?
Yeah, September 2012.
Okay. And so Meg said you had probably a different answer of sort of the challenges over the last few years. What's been your experience?
Well, I mean, I think she kind of hit it on the head. I mean, when you look at a business, in its simplicity, it's broken down to internally, not externally focused. two things. It's basically money and people, right? It's cash and resources to buy the tanks, buy the piece of equipment you need, and then people to run them and be able to manage that. And they both come with their challenges. So Meg took the people piece of it, which ultimately I think is the most difficult thing to really excel in, is find really good, talented people. We're blessed here with amazing people that have ridiculous work ethics and drive an amazing culture. On the money side of it, it takes a lot of discipline, because you got to write the business plans, you have to do the 5-year pro formas, you have to not only do the 5-year pro formas, but in our case with Bank of America, when we presented numbers to them, we weren't even cash flow positive at that point. So I think Brian didn't get too nerdy on here and say, you need a positive trailing 12 debt service coverage ratios. You have to have these things, or the banks won't lend you money. But also you need discipline to say, hey, look, we developed a plan. We sent that plan to the banks and said, this is our plan. And then a year later, we went back to them and proved that we actually executed that plan. So they had some faith in a sense in the operators of the business, that we can not only develop a plan, but we can execute to the plan. So I would say the challenge of that is the discipline to execute to the plan. There's a lot of smart people that can write a lot of great plans, but I think the rarity is the discipline to execute to the plan. And that takes a lot of, bringing it back to the people side, it takes a lot of strong talent and good hires.
And you guys obviously, you had some changes on the personnel side as well. You guys brought in a new brewmaster at one point. People come and go in any business, but that was a tricky piece for you guys to kind of figure out exactly what the Golden Road culture was all about, correct?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. It starts with, if you can start a business before you have people, it starts with product in the brewing side. And we weren't happy with sweeter East Coast maltier beers at a time, and wanted to make a beer change, and needed to make a personnel decision with that. And our focus on the beer side is constant improvement, and I think that you'll find that as a consumer, and even this AB deal kind of makes us want to prove that even more, to show that what AB is able to help alleviate us with will get our focus more on the innovation beer side, even more so, and it'll just be constant learning and improvement on the beer. So
right. So you have the pieces in place. You convinced Bank of America to lend you $8.6 million, was it? The confidential number?
Roughly.
Yeah. And you guys were moving forward. And then you opened up the dialogue and things changed. So walk me through sort of that process, I guess internally, as you guys are starting to assess whether or not this would be your own road that you would go down.
yeah, sure. And I'm going to tell a funny story, and Chris, you might not laugh, but I have to do it. We after that flight, and Paul and I were preparing for kind of like having a conversation with Tony and our other partner, and Harry Schumacher wrote in, and Beer Business Daily, he's coming to write an article, and he comes in and asks for a vodka cranberry and says, AB ought to buy this fucking place. It's perfect for them, and perfect for the geography and all that. And there are multiple industry people kind of telling us like, AB needs a California brewery. And by the way, I had to mention Harry because he told me he would send $1,000 to Heal the Bay if I mentioned him with you, Chris.
Well, thank you, Harry Shoemaker, wherever you are watching.
We just raised $1,000 for Heal the Bay, so
Good.
there you go.
Good. All right.
Cheers. Anyway, Harry did mention that we should sell to fucking AB, which was
That is a very Harry thing to say.
Which was the term, but really that was to raise some money for Heal the Bay. But
for those that don't know Harry is a longtime industry writer. He runs a Beer Business Daily. It's a daily trade publication. if you can afford it, subscribe. We certainly do. So, hi, Harry. I hope you're watching.
Call it $2,000, Harry. Chris just called you out too.
Carry on.
What was the question?
I guess the real question is, what sort of changed in your mind? Because you had this business plan,
So,
you were
okay,
ready
what
to
changed?
go.
What changed? So really, AB kind of had an advantage with us, and so I'm not going to speak to all the other brewers out there that have thought about an exit or whatnot. But from making the decision at age 24, completely broke, to take on a lot of money to build bigger, because it was a big market that we felt we could do well in, right? I was already a minority interest partner. Paul was a minority interest partner. We had two partners that combined took over the majority that we knew were more financially driven partners, weren't operators, right? So AB wasn't coming into a 30-year-old business with a brewer that needed to be convinced to sell. They want operators to stay and have kind of to see the future together, and so they had a unique opportunity here where they knew if they came with a number they could get the majority, and it was really about making the minority interest operators happy to continue our careers and building the brand and all that. And they put together a plan and a vision with craft beer that we said, hey, this is better than we could do on our own. Let's do it. It'll be fun too, right? So that was it for me, and Paul can probably speak for, I think he probably left AB and said, hey, I'm done. I'm going to the other side, but now he's back.
This is real why you don't burn bridges, for the record. No, so I'll speak to a couple things, because I think every investor has a different motivation, right, of the reason why it makes sense for them. For us, I think the number was good, so that the financial investors got the right return on their investment, and they generally felt that was their best value proposition, and that has to do with future markets and more competitive and all that, and it was a good price. The second piece is that if Meg and I reinvested, so we did not cash out. Our money's still in on this deal, and so for us, I think it translates more to is it the right partner? Do you want to work with them, right? Can you have a beer with these people? And at the end of the day, is it going to be an enjoyable experience? Because we're in it for the long haul. And I can tell you from working at AB 10 years, I think, before I came here. It's just like craft. There are people, right? It's people running that, and they're all good people, just like there is here. And so for me, my perspective, I was looking forward to working with a lot of the friends I worked with in the past, and kind of excited to get to share what we've done here with a little less of the corporate constraints, right? Because craft, it's kind of a free for all. You can do whatever you want, and we have that autonomy. We still do, which was I think the other piece that Meg hasn't talked about is that it wasn't like a hard buyout and we take full control and then it's corporate America kind of scenario. Right. It's very much as they term a decentralized model where they recognize that, hey, we're not winning this game. You guys are winning this game. You're doing something that we're not doing, so we don't want to touch it. We want you to continue to do what you guys are doing.
Right.
And so that piece I think got Meg and I a bit more comfortable with Anheuser-Busch as true partners, and so that I think kind of kicked it over. Pretty much over the edge for me personally.
Right, yeah, and Meg, you had mentioned to me that AB wasn't interested in doing the deal unless you and Paul stayed on as the sort of ambitious, driven operators that can continue to take Golden Road into the future, right?
Yeah, they basically said we want you to be yourselves amplified. So however we can provide resources, we want to. But we absolutely want to stay out of the way from, a craft, entrepreneurial, innovative beer side. So far, I think it's all been good news to our staff, and from a employee standpoint, that's kind of the third factor that Paul and I discussed, which is like what kind of access. That was the biggest fear, I will tell you. What we were nervous on announcement day was, how are we telling our staff, and you don't have a lot of time to think about these things from the time you sign until you're in front of your entire team, and just do the media that may find out about it and whatnot through all the filings. So
I too was on a plane at the time that I learned you were selling.
Were you drinking a Goose IPA?
I was not. It was morning time. I was not drinking a Goose IPA, but I was texting from 30,000 feet.
All right, good. You had Wi-Fi. Well, it was actually a very happy time talking to people, and it's only gotten more positive. And what we've found is that the AB pool of resources, not just with AB breweries, but with their craft brands. If our employees want to move to, Portland, wife's having a baby in Portland, and they need to be there or something, whatever it is. There's a brewery there that AB can connect them to, and we can see a lot of growth internally, as well as rolling out a 401k plan for the first time.
And we promoted
better benefits.
We promoted 4 people yesterday that we probably wouldn't have had the opportunity before. So resources definitely amplified. Right?
Yeah.
And Paul, I want to get back to something you said earlier, and Meg's mentioned this to me in the past as well. This idea of reinvesting back in, as much as you're able to share, what exactly does that mean? Because it can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different scenarios. So for you guys as partners staying on, what does it mean to reinvest back in to Golden Road or to Anheuser-Busch or however it's being structured?
Let me jump into this a little bit because I got a little more leash to get in trouble than she does probably. But it was we put in 75% of our money back into the company. Okay. So we're cashing out a little bit, just to be able to do some things, but 75% of our personal investment back in. I'm not sure if I'm about to share it, but I just did. And I can tell you from a personal perspective, I mean, it's very meaningful, right? I mean, I sold my home to buy into Golden Road. Wow. So I went 100% all in. Not only did I sell my home, I leveraged my parents' home to buy in because I truly believed in it from a business investment. And so to say, we're still in, 75% of it is still in. So the vast majority of our personal investments we're still in. So
at the risk of sounding like an asshole, were you financially motivated to sell them? Because I keep reading and hearing, okay, Golden Road was a brewery that was built to sell. I mean, that is like the one thing that people keep going to, and I don't have a position on it one way or another, but there was obviously some things for both of you guys that would lead you down this path of even considering it.
So I can tell you from that one because it was never on the table the entire time since when I was hired. I asked that question since all the way through. Put a little perspective. I was in Europe at the time of this, and I had to cancel my Europe trip to fly back home. It was my first vacation in like 2 years. So no, we did not see this coming. No, it was not planned. In fact, very much unplanned.
Yeah.
Very much unplanned.
Yeah, I will say, like, from a why people may be speculating on that, we had great financial, accounting to our partners, and we kind of had big partners, right? And so I think that there's speculation on that because we were had the structure and the stability that Paul's helped put in place in the brewery. But no, I mean, we took the first meeting a couple months ago, and it happened very quickly, very organically. The visions were aligned. We didn't have a lot to do on our end because it was the two of us plus 2 financial partners who were very happy with the exit. So it was kind of like a timing thing. Right.
So you've said on a few occasions now that both the visions were aligned and that you believe in their vision for craft. Can you go a little bit deeper there and explain kind of what their vision is and kind of where you see the Golden Road brand in the next 12 to 18 months?
Sure. Well, we've always felt like Golden Road is more like a lifestyle craft beer brand that can be spread and shared to the world in the right way with the right partners, right? So we are focused on and excited to be AB's Region 7 focus, which is California, Arizona, Nevada, and Hawaii for them. And that's, you know, what that means logistically, we can't talk about yet. That the deal hasn't closed, so we haven't been able to plan with them. But, you know, we'll be like a top craft focus in their portfolio with their distributors. They have a high-end sales team out there selling in addition to our sales team that just sells their craft brands. So we'll be a big focus in that territory and that footprint. And certainly the venues we're in now, we're gonna grow share in and put those plans together with them. So I think building other than Region 7, building an LA brand can mean a lot globally, and we're interested in kind of what that means to AB as the craft share expands outside the U.S. for sure. But you know, we've seen the movie where, right, you ship beer to Ohio that's got a California label on it and it sits on a shelf. We're not going to do that, right? So
right. Yeah, and that was definitely, you know, you bring up the globalization of this idea of craft, and I think the term craft is one that's becoming increasingly difficult to define. Everybody sort of has its own definition of what it is. I think my definition is like, you know, it's another line item on an IRI spreadsheet at this point, right? Like, because that's what people have made it almost. Like, it has kind of taken on a life of its own. But at its core, there is this connection between craft and local, and it's interesting to think about localization and globalization existing sort of on the same platform, if you will, and craft is sort of going global. Where do you see Golden Road in that? And I guess how do you think, you know, your global ambitions or your would-be global ambitions will impact your localness here in LA?
sure. Well, I'll start this by saying that I think I took a little bit. The deal happened really fast, and we're really excited. I think I took the local craft game a little bit for granted. Where, you know, some lady just yesterday sent me back her Golden Road growler. It was like with my name on it. You know, like, here you go, bitch. I'm not buying this shit anymore, right? And you know, like, it's a little personal. You know, like, so there are those people out there that think, like, because and I didn't tell them, look, like, we had great financial partners, but now we have a beer partner who understands beer, and would you rather sell, you know, us sell to private equity to raise money, and then we'll have to see an exit in 5 years, and then how is a brand going to survive 2-3 exits, whereas now we're building a brand for 170 years that's going to outlive us with a actual beer partner, right? I didn't tell her that. I actually didn't respond.
That's the uphill battle.
Yeah. Right. So I think we need to prove ourselves locally first, but it's fascinating to think about the countries out there, especially with AB's access, that haven't touched craft yet, and how much exposure that could be to, you know, an LA brand. And, you know, we're excited to think about it and look at it with them.
Let me jump in on that, and I'll probably take it off topic. She just reminded me of something, but the truth is, you know, when you ask the general question, why? You know, why do we partner with AB? The general concept to me is we thought it was our best value proposition for all of our stakeholders, not just our investors, but also our employees behind the scenes, right? Because we're going to invest. You look at where Goose is now from where they were originally acquired to where they're at now, and they're over 500,000 barrels, right? So we're looking at the brand and our employees and our team. Well, if we want to bake in a more competitive environment, bake in success and what that looks like, certainly this is the right direction. You know, we're going to continue to invest in Anaheim. We're going to continue to build the brewery. So from that perspective, I just want to go. It's not just investors, but all of our stakeholders, which is inclusive of all of our employees. And then piggybacking on the question around globalization of craft. I mean, I think that's going to be a trend, not just in the beer market, but in general consumer products in general, where you're going to see craft kind of expand, local craft, and the local craft presence can go global, and you can have local presence as long as you have supply production on site.
Right.
It's contradictory though, right? Chris, with what you believe with your farmers markets eating and drinking locally.
Is that what I believe?
But you can still
I
have
see
that.
your pictures on Instagram with the avocado toast and all that.
The avocado, that was an LA thing. I'm a California boy at heart though, so you can't take the avocados out of this guy.
Yeah. But I mean, as long as you keep production close, right?
Right.
You can still have that. You can replicate it and expand on it as long as there's a local
Right.
production and it's local, it's fresh, high quality.
But what do you say to the person who sends their growler back with a post-it note and says, I'm not supporting you guys any longer? And how do you change their minds? Can you change their minds?
Yeah, the proof is in the beer, right? So it's hey, we took on this investment. We think it was the best move for all the stakeholders, including you who are drinking our beer, and we'd like to provide you with an opportunity to try some of our new beers, right? Which is what I'll do with this kind lady.
Right, you can continue, like she said, continue to invest in the product. We'll put more and more resources in making, the next great IPA, the next great beer, the next great experience for the customers, whether it's, at our restaurant location. I mean, just make it an overwhelmingly positive experience. Yeah. It's the best thing you can do.
So, since we're talking about sort of the general reaction to the sale, at the time that you guys announced, just initially, I didn't really see much. I didn't see much negative pushback on, social media, but since, since the word has spread, I've seen a little bit more of it. In full disclosure, we run some Facebook ad campaigns, and I've had to hold myself back, because we were promoting this event to folks to come out and join us.
It's full, right, Chris?
Yeah, it's a full crowd, and the comments we got were interesting. It was like, this is probably an AB recruiting event, or why are you calling?
Applications at the door.
Yeah, like why are you calling this a craft beer industry meetup? That's not craft beer anymore, and it's just interesting to kind of watch that happen, and for me, it's difficult to hold myself out of that conversation and not respond as the brewbound voice, I suppose. But it seems like that has kind of amplified in the last month or so. Have you guys seen that spill over here to the brewery at all? How is the staff taking it? Has anything, I guess, changed even in the last month in terms of just a feeling and a sense of kind of the direction of the company?
No, I think quite the opposite. I mean, our first week was the worst for sure here at the pub, and kind of customers coming in and saying, what the hell? I know Tony and Meg. This is crazy, and definitely I've had to be around more, talking more and more to the customers. I think that our Anaheim expansion, which we're probably going to open in a couple weeks, which is really close, is kind of this nice excitement for us, and we put a lot of positive energy down there. And I was doing a culture day down there yesterday, and 10 new staff members. None of them asked about the acquisition, mentioned it, or even thought that it would be, kind of an issue with, the new tasting room down there. So I think it's phased off as far as, here on site. Online, I've gotten some hate. I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do on Facebook, but I've been just tagging it as spam whenever they tag me and say you know, you cunt, you like started this to make money. And
There we go.
Actually, I really like the beer, and I'm actually investing it all back in, and I haven't made any money ever doing this. But I don't comment on that on Facebook. I just kind of like tell Facebook it's spam, but it seems to be calming down, right?
Interesting. Well, I think everybody's,
Hey, by the way, do you have a block on your live? I'm sorry.
This is live.
It's the internet, it's all good.
That's gonna forever live in the lexicon of the interwebs. All right.
I'm sorry, dude.
Fuck yeah, Meg. I can keep it rolling here. Paul, any expletives to add?
Best to move on.
No, I was gonna say, well, I'm more of the kind of the behind the scenes, back of the house, so the front end social media impact, I intentionally try to stay away from. To me, it's all a bit silly, right? As long as the experience doesn't change, the beer doesn't change. To me, the back end of where the money's going on the back end is all a bit silly in general, the way I perceive it. So certainly from an internal perspective, I think change is generally uncomfortable, or let me say perceived change, because in general nothing has changed, and as that goes forward, I don't anticipate anything significant changing. Now there's going to be change here, but there was always change. We're always dynamic. We're always growing. So a little helping people understanding, hey, nobody's job's at risk, right? Nobody's getting a pink slip and that kind of stuff from internal perspective. But it's all been, and that was, again, to like Meg's point, it was probably about the first week, second week, and it's all been pretty cool now. And in fact, we've had a lot of amazing opportunities with Anheuser-Busch as partners, because Van Nuys Brewery is a 12 million barrel brewery down the street. We had an opportunity to invite our entire brewing team in and get to see what truly macro brewing looks like on a huge scale. And so that was kind of a nice treat, and we're all going to go to Chicago. I think 15 of us are going to go to Chicago on the brewing side and get to see what Goose Island looks like now. After several years of integration, and get to see a 150,000 square foot barrel warehouse, and a lot of really exciting stuff that I think the team is really looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot to learn, obviously. So let's talk about that future briefly, and then ask a couple final follow-up questions here before we let you off the hook here, Meg. I know we're running up against time, but what do you think the future sort of looks like for Golden Road? I guess both the short term and the long term, as a result of this investment, this partnership, as you call it, with Anheuser-Busch. What's next?
So I'll jump into the back of the house side of it. So for us, it's as aggressive as it's always been. The culture made a comment that it's very much entrepreneurial, and aggressive, and it's not slowing down. So we're continuing to build Anaheim, we're continuing to build Grand Central Market. We're now defining the final scope of the brewery size, and it's going to be big in Anaheim. So shout out to John Learns to Wine who's building it there. So from that perspective, I think it'll continue to be kind of the same culture as it's always been. From build, grow, kind of stretch ourselves, get out there, which is very similar to the Anheuser-Busch culture. So from that perspective, kind of very much similar alignment. And I'll let Meg take the external.
I just think Paul and I are trying to sell like 150,000 barrels in the next few years. So want to do that locally and be a California leader, and start to creep up on the IRI data, and do perform better in the grocery chains and all that, and kind of get on that and be featured as the SoCal brand, which we haven't had the opportunity to do yet. So more on the capital project side, and more on the features in grocery stores, and get higher rate of sale on the shelf.
So how are you guys going to do that?
Focus on beer, right? We're going to continue to focus on the product. Make sure that we're not taking it for granted our recipes, but always challenging them. Work to make the beer even better, and again, more programs. So one comment Meg didn't make is she's been pushing a huge barrel program. So the first thing we're going to invest in here very shortly is a giant barrel program to kind of take Golden Road to the next level. and make, get some good beer out there for everybody.
Yeah, and then one side on the programming. So programming basically means like, how do people know that you're doing something, right? How do you tell your retailers and tell your distributors that you're featuring Gila Bay, or that we're turning Gila Bay IPA into a year-round product in the next couple months, right? That's a program we're working with for next year, and regardless of the AB acquisition, we decided we should start a marketing department here at Golden Road, and are going into our 5th year. So we are we've been working with Smartfish on programming for next year, but then we're actually building a marketing team to help execute all of our programming. So hopefully, we've been on the sales and marketing side, we've been kind of a push distribution, push model, and we're going to work hard on the push model still, but really focus on the pull model and building that department and what those programs look like. So
hopefully what it looks like is more opportunity for people to buy Golden Road in their local on-premise and off-premise accounts.
Okay. And then, just a final question about California in general, specifically Southern California. If you look at kind of how the landscape is evolving here, you have, obviously now AB has a stake, or a foothold rather, here with you guys. You got Miller Coors buying St. Archer in San Diego, Ballast Point going public. You have Duvel investing or acquiring Firestone, and Heineken owning 50% of Lagunitas. Obviously that's a little bit further north in my former neck of the woods, but
they're building local.
But building local as well. So with all of that, I mean, how is the competitive landscape changing in California? And in thinking about your decision to sell to Anheuser-Busch, how critical will it be to have sort of the financial backing and the resources of a company like AB InBev as the space here continues to evolve, as more international companies continue to invest in California, which many people say is sort of the foreshadows what's to come in other markets throughout the U.S.
yeah, well, I think that's like California is the 8th largest economy or something in the world. So there's like lots of parts to that question, and I'll say, like, when we launched our brand on day one, we invited 30 retailers here to Golden Road to taste the beer and pick up some kegs if they wanted to pour it, if they liked it, right? And that was it. And we were already like too big for some consumers, some retailers, and so and there are those bars out there that just want to pour a beer that the brewer made and delivered to that bar. And there's a lot of bars out there that want that. And so there are breweries that can exist and make money just on delivering to those bars, right? But if you want to produce on the scale of the 6-pack, 12-pack grocery stores, I think absolutely the AB arm will be, beneficial to us and helpful to us, as well as the Heineken deal to Lagunitas, and just that's synergistic, right? I'm not sure how the Firestone deal is synergistic on the sales side. I think that they'll be, kind of doing their own thing, and then for sure the St. Archer Miller deal will be synergistic on the chain and the programming and all that. So.
Yeah, everybody's partying up, right? And I think the key to the distinguishing characteristic, as Meg pointed out, it's like on the production side, right? If you're a production craft brewer on a larger scale, the market's getting more competitive. Everybody's partnering up to look for strength and leverage out in retail. On the small brew pub side, you're going to continue to have success on that independently because you can control that. There's, like Meg said, there's always a customer looking for a brewer to hand deliver something that they make themselves. But certainly the partnering up is going to help lead to success in the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens now as these partnerships kind of move forward into the future. I mean, they've all happened relatively around the same time period too. So all very, very fresh, all very new and unexplored, and a lot of question marks, I think, around California and the rest of the U.S. landscape. So maybe we'll be sitting here in a couple of years doing this all again and revisiting some of these comments. But thank you guys for joining me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Round of applause for these guys. Once again, couldn't have done this without our sponsors here, which I've already mentioned. We'll be back in San Diego, pretty close to here, on December 3rd for our full day business conference. So if any of you guys are around and want to come check us out, we'll be down there on December 3rd at Paradise Point. Meg spoke there a number of times.
Great event. You should all come.
Thanks for the plug,
A lot of
Meg.
fun.
Appreciate it. And
Great beer
then,
down there too.
and then Harry's giving us $1,000 for Heal the Bay.
I think we have this too.
Yeah.
And then we raised over $500 tonight with your guys' help, so thank you for that. And then maybe tell us a little bit about Heal the Bay. I know they're not here tonight, but what is the money going towards?
Absolutely. So Heal the Bay is a group they're based in Santa Monica, but they do actually the largest beach cleanup in the world. But so kind of global in mission, just to clean up and protect the local watersheds. And among many things, they helped sponsor the plastic bag ban in the state of California last year, and they're contributing greatly to the drought efforts now, as well as oil in the South Bay, and keeping all of our ocean water clean, as well as our water runoffs clean and protected. So that we can be safe, whether it's using the water or drinking the water. So thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Cheers. Let's get a beer, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for coming out, guys.
xoxoHomegrown.